Hey everybody. So 2 months ago, Dave did a great demo on sharpening tools, which I found to be very enlightening. I skated out afterwards and stopped off at McDonald's for my customary unsweetened iced tea, and I ran into a fellow club member who's relatively new to the club. And he said, you know, that was a great demo, but I don't know how to use any of those things. I don't know what that stuff's for. I got nothing. Why don't you give us something for the beginners? And I'm like, well, I thought we were, but okay, maybe not. So let's do that. And I've been putting this off for a couple months as we keep getting better as demonstrators. But I decided that this month, instead of doing, I was going to do finials, and I can still do that some other time. I said, instead of doing that, let's do good old Navy class tools and their uses. Several of us are ex-Navy. I was a machinist mate. Tools and their uses was required for us fireman recruits when we first started. And it seemed appropriate. When I thought about it, I'm like, you get a lathe, you buy it, it sits there in front of you, and some things come with it, some things don't come with it. And the question is, well, what do I have to buy? And I got to tell you something. We get sold some stuff. We get sold some serious stuff. And some of it's nice and useful. Some of it is absolutely required. Some of it's crap. And everybody has a different opinion on what crap is, but that's fine. So I said, you know, what I want to do is I want to address this like you just got your first lathe and you don't know what tools to have, you don't know how to use them, you don't know what to do with them. And that's what I came up with. So there's two things I want to address. How do I fasten wood onto my lathe? And how do I cut it once I've fastened it? Now, when I got here, and I guess I should have had my wife bring well, I don't have a drive center that'll fit this lathe. This is my drive center. It's for a 1.5 inch spindle. That's the only thing that came with my lathe, and that's what I use for big pieces. But every lathe will come with a drive center that'll fit it. I do happen to have this nifty little insert for a drive center. Now let's pretend there's no chuck on here for the time being, and assume that I've got a nice 2MT drive center that I've mounted in here. Okay, this is a nifty little tool. It's optional, you don't need it. I like it because I put my Nichols lathe too close to the wall and I can't fit the knockout rod into the end. And it weighs 1,200 pounds and it's bolted to concrete, so I'm not moving it. Okay, so I really like this a lot, you know. Having things I can fasten to the threads is a real, because you saw it, Dave, it's too close to the wall. I didn't think about it until nope, not gonna fit. So, that's not straight.
You have to make a hole in the wall.
Well, I would, but my cousin and I put so much work into drywalling and insulating that space that to put a hole in the wall just drives me insane. I can't bring myself to do it.
Just cut the thing a little shorter.
Well, then it won't fit, yeah. I thought about that, because I could almost get it. If I bend it and twist it in there, I could probably do
A
it.
telescoping rod.
Yeah, well, the spring loaded, so I could push it in there, boink, and pop it out and have it shoot. Yeah, okay. This has gone a weird little twist here I wasn't expecting. All right, so what I'm going to recommend to you as we move forward on this is you get some 2x4s. This is out of one 2x4. This is only half of it. And cut yourself some nice turning squares to practice on. And whenever you want to do something fancy like those nice stool legs, you throw one. Hey, it's all right. I got plenty of them where those came from. Throw one of these up on the lathe, and grab your handful of tools that you can't live without. And I'm going to show you what they are in a minute. And practice for a few minutes, and get the touch, because you walk away from the lathe and you lose the touch. Okay? So it doesn't hurt. Who's got a pencil? Because that's the other thing I forgot.
That'll work.
A pen will work.
There you go.
Caveman technology. Straight edge. Draw a line across each corner. And where they cross is the center.
That's a right-hander pen.
Yeah, it's good enough.
That's where he's using the right side of the spring.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's right. Okay. I'll be doing, okay, hold this for a few minutes, I'll be doing more probably. All right, so, right off the bat, first thing I'll talk about for mounting tools is a drive center or drive spur on your motor. Like I said, usually they got a Morse taper like that, and this slides in. Sorry, I don't have one, and we couldn't find the one that goes to this. And a live center for this end. Live center is just a number 2 Morse taper on most lathes. Some are number 3, some are number 1. I've never seen a number 1. A one-way lathe will have a number 3 on the tailstock and a number 2 on the headstock. I don't know why they would do that, but they do. But anyway, it's got ball bearings inside, and this spins freely. It's got a pin to hold it. This will come with the lathe almost every time, and some sort of drive spur will come with the lathe almost every time. Okay, so that's going to be our basic way to install. Now, which one of these did I draw an X on? This one. This is only pine, so I'm not too worried about marking it with a punch. If I was doing a harder wood, I would take a punch and hammer divots in. It's not good for the bearings to be driving hardwood that much, but this nice softwood isn't going to hurt anything.
Can you show me what a live thing is? You just said you had a live center.
This is your live center.
And what's live about it?
It's got a ball bearing inside the body, which allows this to spin freely from the body. That way this can be mounted. When it's tight, this won't turn. When it's tight, that won't turn, but this spins free. And that's what makes it live. And a dead or drive center is what you put on this end, because the motor will spin it. Okay? Good? Okay. So, I'm just going to mount this up. Crank it down a little bit to the teeth grab. That's good enough. Not everybody tightens it. I always do. It just makes sense. One thing about using a 2x4 is I can cut it to lengths, and I can fit it within my tool rest and not move the tool rest around. So the first tool I want to show you is a roughing gouge. We got an overhead view of this, or where's the camera at? Okay, that's a roughing gouge. Now, there are alternatives to a roughing gouge. I'm not going to tell you you have to have a roughing gouge. Okay? As a matter of fact, I've turned for 2 years. I just bought this a couple weeks ago. Okay? So this is one I'm gonna call optional, but I'm going to show you how this works before I move on. I'm going to show you alternatives to this too. That's why I got lots of wood. A face mask, full face mask, is required, unless you're talking to people. I have a Trend Air Shield Pro. Costs about $400, and it filters the air for me, keeps stuff out of my eyes. But I got to tell you something. I was reading an article recently on safety. It was in AAW magazine. I don't remember her name, but a woman, Turner, had a piece come apart and pretty much crush her face. And now she uses a riot helmet, a police riot helmet. And I got to tell you something. That Trend Air Shield, it keeps dust out of my eyes. It filters the air. But if I poke on it like this, I can touch my nose against the tip of the shield. It ain't protecting me from anything heavy. I can tell you that right now. And I'm strongly considering looking at other options. The big advantage of the Air Shield Pro is it blows cool air over the mask, and it keeps it from fogging up like these are doing right now. Before you turn on the lathe, when you set your tool rest, spin it by hand. Make sure you're not getting any catches. Let's be safe. Okay? Speed. Speed's a big issue. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you how fast to turn. I got no formulas for you. If you're afraid of it, slow it down. You know? People have formulas. People talk about this and that. I like to turn pretty fast. Not that fast. But everybody's different. And don't turn any faster than you're comfortable with. All right, we got the overhead view going. This was pretty simple. Catch. It's not round yet. You hear it bouncing. Okay, I'm gonna stop for a second. I just got a little tiny catch and it stopped and it spun free. There are people who really like what they call the cup centers. The cup centers don't have teeth on them, don't catch. And if you get it, don't catch here very well. And if you get a catch, the wood just stops and nothing, no harm, no foul. I don't use them, but it's a safety feature that a lot of people really like. I guess I was turning long enough before they started doing those things that it doesn't appeal to me now, but it's something to consider when if you have an extra tool money to buy a cup center. When you're using the roughing gouge, you want the tool rest relatively low so that the wood is coming into contact with the tool on the downside. See how it's cutting there? And you want to pull it across. Rock back and forth on your feet, slide back and forth a little bit. It's almost round. And go a little ways further. If you use it, somebody asked you, when do you switch over from the roughing gouge to something else? I think the short answer is when it's completely round. But having said that, I could grab a skew right now, and I will here in a minute, and start even with this. Let's go ahead and make it round. Okay.
Arnie?
Yeah.
I noticed that you're holding the tool with the handle down.
Yes. I cannot think of an example of a tool that I don't use that way, except maybe on occasion the parting tool. Almost every other tool I hold with the handle down at all times. Okay, and sometimes when I get to the skew, the tool rest comes up. Otherwise, I'm like this with the handle. I don't want to do that. So we'll get to that one in a minute. But yeah, I'll almost always hold
Let me
it.
say one thing too, Arnie. I know we have a lot of guys in this club that are using the new Easy Wood tools. You do not use them handle down.
Oh yeah.
Easy Woods are meant to be used horizontal, center line.
And skews actually will frequently be up a little bit. So I had forgotten about that. So the Easy Wood carbide bit tools, like Dave said, straight in, and a skew, when you're going into a bowl, you'll typically go down a little bit, so you catch that angle.
If I'm not wrong, the Easy Woods, they're more scraping tools than
Yeah.
cutting.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. They're fundamentally dull scrapers. Okay, carbide has much bigger molecules than high-speed steel does. Therefore, it can never be as sharp as high-speed steel. Having said that, they're a wonderful tool for gouging out large quantities of wood. I don't like them for finished tools. There are people who swear by them as finished tools. I'm not one of them, but I'm not going to talk about Easy Wood. Easy Wood tools to me are one of those things that they sell us. I have a complete set. I love them for certain things, but they don't qualify for tonight's talk. Yeah.
So the gouge you're using, your center line of your rest is below center of the
Yes.
wood, right?
The center line is pretty much well below center for this tool.
Half inch?
At least, maybe a little more. But that is a pretty.
It's going to depend on the size of the roughing
It's
gouge.
because I was gonna say, but this is a pretty big roughing gouge.
You know, the right depth for that roughing gouge, but you know.
So, but what I'm doing between the tool rest and the angle, the tool is pretty much at the center line of the wood. And that's what you're looking for. Okay, the combination of the size of the gouge, the angle you hold it at, is going to determine where your tool rest is going to ride. Okay, so this one's quite a bit lower. If I go straight in, you can see it's really low. But since I hold it at an angle and it's a big gouge, I'm pretty much catching at wood. You see how this kind of peels that wood off? A little bit more, and then I move on to the next tool.
Arnie, why don't you talk a little bit about where on the roughing gouge you prefer to cut? I mean, you don't come way out on the wings of the roughing gouge.
No, what the wings of the roughing gouge are an accident waiting to happen. These points are going to hurt you. Okay, if I'm moving to the right, I'm about here. If I'm moving to the left, I'm about here. Okay, can you see that in the camera? Okay. Anything further than that, you're really running the risk of catching that corner. And I got to tell you something. I'll show you the same thing with skews. Corners are deadly. Corners will mess you up. Okay, stay away from the corners. And like I said, I'll show you on the skew here in a little bit. A couple more passes and this will be around. I can do something else. All right, that's going to be around. Okay, the next two tools I'm going to talk about are the one my wife brought me, the beading parting tool, and the spindle gouge. Now, a little bit about the tools and the handles and stuff. I have, with a few exceptions like my roughing gouge, I have gone to Thompson steel. I'm not here to sell Thompson steel. I will say, if you can find a company that will sell you loose steel that you can handle yourself or buy handles for, I recommend it. And Dave told us why 2 months ago when he did a sharpening demo. You want to sharpen your tools with precision, taking them out of the handle makes things easier. They're lighter, they're shorter, they're easier to manipulate. And I'm not going to repeat a lot of the stuff that Dave talked about, no point to that. But I do want to stress that. Now this one is a Thompson-made handle. I didn't feel like making my own handle this time, so I went ahead and bought one. I have a love-hate relationship with them. The advantage is when you set them down, they don't roll. They're filled with shot and they don't vibrate. The disadvantage with them, if you don't have a heated shop, they get cold. And I don't find metal to be as comfortable in my hand as I find wood. If you make your own tool handles, always, always, always put a ferrule on it. At a bare minimum, get you a brass nut from the hardware store, thread it onto your wood, because if you don't, you run the risk of the wood splitting out and the tool flying up at you. So always put a ferrule. I've been buying these one-way ferrules. They're about 20 bucks. They thread onto your wood. They got two set screws in them. And so fundamentally, they work the same way as my Thompson handles. Now, I've got a couple handmade handles here with me today. I'm not proud of either one of them. They're not wonderful turnings, but they really feel good in my hand. So anyway, so the next two tools I'm going to recommend is the beading parting tool, which is the pointy one, and the spindle gouge. With those two tools, I can make beads and coves. Beads and coves are what that stool was all about. A bead is where the wood sticks out. A cove is where it is gouged in. So let's make a couple. I'm going to start with a notch. Sharp tools are a dream. I got to tell you something. If you missed Dave's talk about sharpening tools, go watch the video. Sharp tools rock. Okay. Spindle gouge. I'm too low for the spindle gouge. Spindle gouge is a much smaller piece of steel, and therefore I want to be up quite a bit higher. And I got a little too close to the A little too close to the chuck there. So for a bead, I want to take these two corners off, round them down, make this nice and pretty and round. I'm not guaranteeing a perfect round shape today, but I'm going to do my best. To do a bead, you start with a tool flat, and you're going to work your way like this. Okay, can you see that in the camera? Start with a tool flat and work your way towards the edge. So I'm going to do this. See how pretty that is? See how nice? This is like that. That's a bead. Just as pretty as you please. Okay? To do, let's cut some grooves here and just play with it. So on this one, I'm going to cut a cove. Cut a cove. Remember on this, I started flat and went to the angle. For this, I'm going to start here, and this is going to be the center of my cove, right here. So to cut a cove, I'm going to start at an angle and work my way to flat. Always cut downhill. Okay? Always cut downhill. Just remember, just like skiing. Try to ski uphill, you're going to hurt yourself. Yes?
Those ends are tapered back enough that they wouldn't get caught like the roughing gouge would, I guess, right?
Right. These are cut back. I have no points on here.
Okay.
See how I'm flattening the tool out as I approach the slot that I cut? Now here I'm going to start here and I'm going to work my way to the other way. Always cutting downhill. Now it's a little on the rough side. That's better. It's not perfect, but that's the idea. So let's cut some more. Let's make another bead. And remember, for a bead, you start flat and work towards the point. Start flat, work towards the point. Start flat. And let's make this a nice little cove in there. And then let's do a cove. Oh, got another bead to do. And then let's do a cove. Not as precise as Mark would do, but it gets the point across. Okay? simple beads and coves. We okay with that? So, you need these two. Can't live without these two. A spindle gouge and a parting tool.
Is there
Okay?
a size spindle gouge you really recommend if you have a limited budget?
The small one, the 3/8 inch. The 3/8 inch. This tool here, handle and tool, cost me $50. No, I'm sorry. No, it was $100. $50 for the handle. It was $100 with tax and shipping for this tool here from Thompson about 2 weeks ago. I was using a Craftsman spindle gouge for the longest time. And, you know, they rebrand those under a bunch of different names, Shopsmith and a bunch of different ones. They're all Chinese made, and if they have any high-speed steel at all, it's the last ½ inch. Most of them are just basic tool steel. They won't stay sharp. You won't be happy with them for long. There's a certain school of thought that says, oh, you buy the cheap ones so you can learn how to sharpen on them. Yeah, fine. Do what you want. Do what makes you feel good. I think you just take a couple lessons like the one Dave gave. You don't need a whole lot of metal to waste. It's fine. So that's these two. I recommend before you do any spindle work, you just grab a piece of 2x4 and practice on your tools. You get the touch back. I'm a little rough here, but get the touch back. And if you can't, you know, when you get it nice and smooth and you're happy with the way you're doing things, then break out your expensive piece of Paduke or rosewood and make your finial. But practice with them. These two are necessary. Put another piece on, and I'm going to blaspheme, and I'm going to upset some people. But I'm going to show you that you can use a skew in the place of a roughing gouge. Now, I'm going to show you the skew next. As soon as I get done marking this, I'll talk about it for a second.
I'd like to say one thing about a roughing gouge. If that's all right.
Yeah,
Roughing gouges are only used for spindle.
I was going to get there.
Okay.
I was going to get there because I'm going to put a bowl blank up here in a minute.
All right.
I'm going to get
Got
there.
ahead of you. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
So we were done with the roughing gouge.
Oh no, well, we're done with it, but I'm going to talk about it one more time. Well, what the heck? I'll just talk about it now. The roughing gouge is used for spindle work because in all spindle work, part of the definition is the grain is running this way. By definition, the grain is running this way. That makes it a spindle. If the grain is running the other way, it'll just snap on you. It won't do you any good. So the grain is always running this way. Unless you're Mark Supik or one of his disciples, when you do a bowl, you're always doing it across the grain. Okay? See the grain's running this way? If you try and use a roughing gouge on a bowl, when the grain comes around, it will catch. And it'll kick back on you and it will injure you. There's a YouTube video out there, which, if you can find it, is awesome viewing. A guy under control was demonstrating why it's a bad idea to use a roughing gouge on a bowl. He said, look, don't ever do this, and I'm going to show you why, because in the middle I'm going to catch. Well, he got a catch all right, and about ripped his finger off on the video. And he held his hand, was like a bill gouging, look at this is what it does, don't ever do this. And then he went in and got first aid. So, do not use this on a bowl. You can use a bowl gouge on a spindle all you want. Don't use a bowl gouge on a roughing gouge on a bowl blank. Thank you for bringing that up. I was going to get to it, but now's as good a time as any. So I'm going to mount another piece of wood on here. Now I'm going to talk about the skew. In my opinion, the skew is the greatest invention ever made and worthy of your time and attention. That doesn't mean I'm good at it. It means I'm learning, and I respect it, and I love it a lot. The skew is a vicious looking little tool, extremely sharp, and remember what I said about points. This point right here will get you in serious trouble with this tool. Okay? If you remember that that point will get you in serious trouble and you keep it away from the wood, you can learn to do amazing things with a skew. No tool will give you a sharper edge than a skew. To my opinion, a skew is an optional tool. It is not one of the ones I recommend you absolutely have to have in order to survive. I know at least one person who's all set to sell all of his skews. And I don't blame him, but I'm here to tell you, if you practice with it, and like I say, I'm not perfect with it, but I like it a lot. Start with the tool rest high. One of the things you've got to do with a skew is you've got to approach the wood at the top, near the top. Okay? You've got to, I don't know how well you can see, you can't lay the tool flat. You've got to rock it up on that edge a little bit. All the more to get this point away from the wood. Okay? So you're going to go high on the wood. Your cut is like that. That's how you're cutting. Okay? You're cutting across like that. If you're going in like this, you're hurting yourself, damaging the wood, and not doing your tool any good. Okay? You're going in high, you're angling it, and it's just like whittling. It's like you have a sharp pocket knife, just like whittling, except you're whittling a piece of wood that's spinning. Okay? That's the trick. Some people grind this edge down so it rides flat on the tool rest. They sell an oval skew where instead of being flat sides, they're oval sides. I haven't tried it. Some people love them. Some people swear by them. Some people hate them. I've read comments one way or the other. I don't have an opinion on that because I haven't tried it. Oh goody, this is out of round. This is off center. That'll hurt. All right, that's better. We can live with that. But a skew, if used correctly, will give you a finished product that's so smooth, it's just wonderful to the touch. And I've been told that if it's used correctly, you have to sand it just to break that glossy finish before you put finish on it. So, tool down, your tool and tool rest, handle down, angled up, ride the bevel, like that. Look how fine those shavings are. You notice I'm cutting in the bottom third of the edge. This point is not anywhere near the wood at all. Not quite round yet. Some of it's pretty smooth. I have got a little tear out here, like I say, it's pine. Am I not perfect with this? But remember, this was square a minute ago. That was just about as fast as the roughing gouge. So I'm going to pass this around. There are some tear outs here from it just being a soft piece of pine and me not being all that good. But I want you to see how smooth most of that really is.
Same RPMs.
Yeah, I haven't changed the RPM since I got up here. It's pretty surprising, isn't it? And that started as just a square blank 2 minutes ago. Skew isn't for everybody, I understand that. I'm still learning, I'm not a master, but I'm here to tell you, to my mind, it's worth playing with. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that if you're a little bit afraid of speed, that you go slow. And is there any relationship between slow speed and knocking the corners off the piece before you speed it up and get into more rounding?
An off center or out of round or or square piece, most people are going to want to start slower. Once you get it round and balanced, you speed it up. I tend to forget that because I have a 1,200 pound lathe. But and this is a pretty heavy lathe, really, for what I'm working on, for little light pieces of pine. But yeah, when you put a piece of wood up there, that is one of the things to consider. Your speed has everything to do with the shape, condition, and balance of the piece of wood you're working on. And until you get it completely round and symmetrical, I do a lot of asymmetrical pieces. And even on my big lathe, some of those I never get up very fast because it's just rocks and rolls. So yeah, thank you for the question.
I started with like 5-inch square, and I cut the corners with my table saw, to start to round this, but it's real slow.
Yeah. That's what type of lathe do you have?
I'm sorry?
What type of lathe do you have?
I bought one at the end of the year on sale, Grizzly. It's just tried it, never.
So it's probably
spent a
what,
whole lot of money on it.
12-inch swing?
I think it's 16.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
16 by 46. Something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a reed
About like
front.
that jet then.
Right?
Just about like that jet,
Yeah.
the size of the jet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another thing is when it's out of round, square, or out of balance, or natural edge, the bouncing of the tool beats you up.
Yeah. I did a 22-inch piece of cherry that Sherman got for me. And I gotta tell you, making that thing round just about ripped my arms off. Because I couldn't turn it much more than 600 or 800 RPM, even on that beast I had. And it's just thunk as it comes around and catches the high spot. Yeah, getting a piece out around, even a smallish piece, is going to shake your arms up a little bit.
I found using a chainsaw worked a lot better.
Yeah. So what I want to,
That electric chainsaw really works good.
Chainsaw on the lathe works really well.
the next thing I want to talk about, I don't know how we're doing on time. Okay. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is bowl work. And- huh? Is that a screw?
On your chuck.
Oh, right there it did. Okay, good catch. How do I lock the spindle on this? Is that it? Yeah. I'm going to do away with the chuck for a little bit. I'll talk about it more in a minute. If you talk to Mark Supik, he'll tell you that I shouldn't have done that. There we go. He'll tell you not to buy a chuck. So I'll start by telling you what to do without a chuck. And then we'll spend some more time. Hold on a minute. This chuck turns backwards from running. You put the chuck back together again here.
Guys, while Arnie's doing that, I've been told that the sharpening video that I put up, the last maybe 1/3, quarter of it, the sound goes out of now for some reason. So I'll get that checked out, get that fixed, send out a new email with the correct link in it. It's the one problem with YouTube, you can't replace a video. You gotta upload a new video and you lose your old link.
Oh. So Dave, I put this, I had an Allen wrench, so I set that screw back again, so you don't have to worry about it.
All right, thank you.
So, let's talk about turning bowls. When I first started, I did what somebody was talking about. I took my bowl blanks, whacked the corners off with a table saw. It's fine, whatever, it works. I think two years ago on our buy, swap, and sell, I was fortunate enough to buy a bandsaw for one of our fellow club members, and that's what I use now, and it's much better. But it still isn't perfectly round. Turning the bowl, bare minimum, faceplate. You can do the whole thing with the faceplate. You can. Trust me, it works. If you talk to Mark Supik, he'll tell you to put the bowl blank between centers just like you would a spindle. And start it that way. That's fine. Works great. I don't do that. I do when I'm taking his classes, which I recommend highly. But I don't do that. I mark the center on this when I cut it. And I'm going to mount it on a faceplate. Your lathe will come with one of these. Don't lose it. Buy more. You won't regret it. Pre-drill your screws, because if you don't, every once in a while, you'll get a piece of wood that's so hard, it won't give you the screws back again.
Yeah.
I ran into that at one of our demos. Tighten the chuck before you start. I suppose I could have done this in advance, but that would have deprived you all of the joy of watching me do it. Also, I guess I couldn't have because I don't have a faceplate that'll fit this chuck. So I had to wait till I got here. So, what you see here is what's going to be, I'm not going to do a whole bowl tonight. What you see here is what's going to be the top of the bowl. So I can drill all the holes in there I want because all that wood's going to get eaten away. Okay? So obviously I'm going to mount this on the face, maybe it's not obvious. I'm going to mount this on the faceplate, I'm going to turn the outside of the bowl, and I'm going to turn something on the bottom that I can fasten to the lathe later. Okay? Let's just take a second. Don't reuse these. The heads do round out. Don't reuse them. Don't be cheap. Buy new ones. And if you're doing anything bigger than 5 or 6 inches, go to the 1.5 inch, not the 1.25 inch like I got here. And most of my holes didn't line up for some reason. Use all the screw holes. I got a 12-inch faceplate. It's got like 30 holes in it. When I use it, I use every one of them. Just be safe.
How good is that? Is that the plain flat piece of steel with a nut welded on it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
That's
And
what
this,
it looks like, yeah.
this is the one that came with. This is the one that came with this lathe, right?
I believe that faceplate did come with that lathe.
And like I said, I'm not going to turn an entire bowl tonight, but I want to talk to you about the bowl gouge. This is way out of round, isn't that special?
Yeah.
You're gonna turn that,
Huh?
you're gonna make that good.
Yeah, I'll fix that right away. But I think I need a little bit more room. Anybody want some pine practice blanks? Here, pass these around.
See how you're lying.
Anybody else?
All right. If you don't have a tailstock that comes off, at least remove the live center. I've gotten more digs in this elbow. So just take that out, you know? It's not gonna hurt anything.
Yeah, I have a couple of them myself.
Okay, the bowl gouge is a wonderful tool. If you're gonna do spindle work, don't waste your money. But if you're gonna do bowl work, this is the way to go. I've got this one with pretty swept back wings, based upon the learning that I did 2 months ago. It's also nice to have another one with a flat nose for doing the bottoms of bowls.
Are those swept back wings working better for you?
Yeah, 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 they are. Okay, let's turn the speed down. See the shake? That's what you're talking about. Is that around? Turn it down so it'll stop shaking. Otherwise it'll drive you nuts. I'm too high.
You have to be below center on it.
Below center. The way I gauge it is I look for the center of the turn-in, and I want my tool to actually be right at it. The tip of my tool to be right at it. So again, it's based upon the size of the tool. So right now I got it all the way to the bottom.
So what was your point? Don't turn while you're high?
I've broken that rule a couple times. Well, I was medicated, you know. I was medicated. Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Now see, I'm not happy with this. The tool rest won't go any lower. Oh, there it goes. There are shavings under it. Because I want the handle down. There you go. Okay, I want you to see now what I'm doing. Where do you want this so you can see it? I'm cutting. Well, you see that little piece of sawdust? That's about where I'm cutting at. From there back to about here. I'm not getting up here. Right in this area right here is where I'm cutting at to just flatten this, although I'm doing a miserable job on it. Of it. I don't know if you can see with the sawdust in the way, but you see where the point of the tool is touching? Or the edge of the tool is touching the wedge, you see it? Back from the tip. Okay, I'm being obsessive because I wanted you to see that. Let's make it round, and then I'm going to show you how to. So at some point, we're going to decide how we're going to mount this bowl to the lathe when we're done with the outside. We need to decide that pretty quick. The reason is I need to know how to cut this bottom. If you're going to use a faceplate in the bottom, like Mark would teach us, you need to leave enough room for these screws, so you're going to need to leave a pretty deep tenon. If you're using 1 1/4 inch screws, you're going to need to leave at least a 1 inch tenon on the bottom, because it's a 1/4 inch for the faceplate. That's fine. On a larger piece of wood, that's what I do always. I don't use chucks on big pieces of wood. It scares me to death. It just won't. Okay. Something like this, I think there's not enough wood here to do what I just said. So you got a couple options. You can glue a glue block on. That's a piece of pine or some other cheap wood that you don't care about. You glue it on, let it dry, it gets nice and flat, glue it on, let it dry, turn it kind of around, and then you have as much space as you want for screwing screws into the faceplate. That works great. A lot of people do that always. I don't unrecommend it. I don't do it very often, but I do it occasionally. For something this small, I'm going to use a chuck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it round, just round, and then I'm going to prepare the bottom for a chuck, and that'll probably be all I do for this evening. How are we doing?
Yeah, we've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, because I'm not gonna try and do a whole bowl. I never planned on it. If you can see it, can you see it okay? I'm using the same part of the tool as I was using before. Make sure your tool rest is tight. Did I hear a question? No? Okay. It's almost round. It's round enough for government purposes. Remember, this is a Navy-inspired presentation, so. Okay, so. Since I've decided that I'm going to use a chuck, I'll talk about a chuck. Chucks are wonderful devices that Mark will tell you not to buy. I like mine. I've got 2 of them. One of them I got from Penn State for a couple $100. It's got a bunch of different size jaws. And you know what? It's cheap, but it works. I've had it for 2.5 years. I've had it on 2 different lathes. I use it on my nickels with an adapter, and it works just fine. So say what you will about the Chinese stuff, and I do talk about Chinese cutting tools all the time. The chuck is great. I've also got a one-way, the big one-way that came with my nickels. It's got 1 set of jaws, and I use it for medium to larger size stuff. Like I said, for massive stuff, we're still missing 1 screw on this. I just noticed. We're still missing 1 screw. For massive stuff, I use faceplates always. But that's, yeah, we're still missing a screw.
And notice we're missing our live center, our drive center
Yeah.
too, out of the toolbox. Someone's helped themselves somewhere along the way.
I don't even know why somebody would do that. Every lathe comes with one.
You know, it could have been at a demo and somebody just ended up wrong toolbox.
I brought the wrong calipers with me, but that's all right. What I usually use is the straight calipers. Okay, I measure the size, and this is a trick that Jimmy Clue showed me in one of his demos. Put the tool rest up high, and actually use the points of the pointy calipers to mark your wood. Use this one, not this one. But I'm not going to do that because I don't have the right calipers, and it's probably dangerous as hell anyway.
Yeah.
So what I am going to do, I am going to just kind of mark this with a pen. That's too small. No, actually it's not too small. Okay.
Is that the dovetail jaws?
These are the dovetail jaws. And what I've actually marked, yeah. Let's make sure what I did what I thought I did. Now that you've asked me yet.
All know the jaws. Only the old one-way strong bolt chuck set of straight jaws.
So what I'm going to do, since I decided I'm going to use a chuck, is I'm going to cut the dovetail for the... Oh, let me pass this around while I'm thinking about it. This literature comes with the Thompson tools, and it's a nice photographic or drawing reference of all the different tools. I want that back. I really like that. It shows the angles you sharpen them at and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that dovetail. You notice I'm coming in at an angle like this. Cut the dovetail. Swap and fly away. Since I'm going to do a recess, I just go ahead and put a foot on it. I'll mark my foot. And then back to the trusty bowl gouge. Follow that out. Now, this is my foot, so this will be the edge of the bowl. And again, look, I'm still hitting the wood at the same spot of the bowl gouge. That'll give me a footed bowl, not unlike the feet on my bowls over there. At this point, just reset your tool rest and start rounding off the edges of your bowl. But as promised, I'm not making a whole bowl tonight. That's not the point. You can see how that would round out and become a bowl. The point behind this was to talk about faceplate, talk about the bowl gouge, and talk about potentially using the chuck if you're interested in using it in buying a chuck. Any questions? So, to summarize, bare minimum toolkit, a bowl gouge if you're going to do bowls, a parting tool no matter what. You notice I used it on both. A spindle gouge. Yeah. A roughing gouge if you want. I went 2.5 years without one. I lived just fine. You can use this to rough things out with just fine. But they're not real expensive, and I'm starting to like the fact that I have one now. And I recommend a skew, but not everybody agrees with me. For mounting, you got to have a dry center, you got to have a live center, you got to have a faceplate, but those things will come with your lathe. A chuck is a wonderful thing. I like mine. I use it all the time. It has its limitations. If I were to turn this around and chuck it, I would probably bring the center up to hold it, at least at first. And so I started hollowing out, especially on like a 12-inch piece. But when it gets much more than 12 inches, I won't even use a chuck. I got 2 of them. One of them's huge. I love them, but I won't use them on big stuff. I don't care. If it's that big, there's enough wood there that I can put a faceplate on it. 1 1/4 inch screws are fine for this little tiny stuff. 1 1/2 inch screws for bigger pieces. Always wear a faceplate. Never use a roughing gouge on a bowl blank. That's all I got. Any questions?
Thanks.
How about a bigger skew?
A bigger skew?
Yeah.
I want one. A couple things, okay, since you brought it up. A couple things more about the skew. I want a bigger skew. I intend to get one. No doubt. Some people round the corner of this off. They grind this so it's like an arc. So this corner is gone. One thing, that's fine for doing like what I showed you tonight. But the limitation to that is sometimes you want to use the point for specialty cuts. And if you ground it away, it's not there to use. So I recommend, Batman's dirty. I recommend you learn how to use the chuck as it comes from the factory, but that's your choice. If you want to grind that tip off, more power to you. It's harder to sharpen every time, but hey, on you be it. Okay? Extremely sharp piece. And that brochure I passed around talks about the angle. This angle here is supposed to be 40 degrees, according to Doug Thompson. And I'll tell you something, I had a sharper angle with the grind coming back to about here. Won't stay sharp. Will not stay sharp at all. It's a waste of time. And I tried a shorter angle, and you do not get the bevel to ride. You're going to end up getting a lot of gouges. The 40 degrees that Doug Thompson recommends is spot on. He's right. Wipe the ink off my precious skew. All right, that's all I got. Thank you very much.